Good morning, everyone. I again welcome you in the virtual classroom of managerial economics. In last lecture, we discussed about the objectives of demand forecasting, and now we are moving towards factors affecting demand forecasting. Basically, there are five categories. One is time period, second is level of demand forecasting, third one, nature of demand forecasting, fourth, nature of product, and fifth one, nature of competition. Let us discuss in detail. The first one is time period. See, on the basis of time period, demand forecasting can be divided into two categories. One is a short term and second is a long term. Short term is the period where a firm is predicting for 1 year, up to 1 year. If a firm wants to predict, then it can be known as short term demand forecasting. Second is a long term demand forecasting. If firm wants to predict for more than 5 years, then it will be termed as long term demand forecasting. See, why we need to decide the time period? Because on the basis of time period, we need to make arrangement of human and financial resources. So what happened in the short term demand forecasting? If we want to know the demand for the short period, say for example 1 month or 6 months, then that kind of demand forecasting we can do with the help of our salesman only. It means we are not hiring any outsider for demand forecasting. What we are doing? We are doing within the resource. We are doing the demand forecasting, which resources available within the organization. We need not to hire human resource from the outside the organization, and we are not also getting loan from the market. So we are not making arrangement of financial resources as well. In short-term demand forecasting, it can be done by the resources available within the firm, and in long-term demand forecasting, we need to do a market research, and for doing market research, we need to hire the researchers and we need to pay them fees, and doing market research is such a costlier expense that sometimes firm need to go for long-term financial requirements. So firm need to make arrangement of human and financial resources for long-term demand forecasting. Now, the second factor is level of demand forecasting. See, what kind of levels are there? Basically, three levels are there. One is macro level, second is industry level, and third one is firm level. See, let us clear the meaning of this level. First of all, what do you mean by macro level? You know that economics are of two types, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Micro means related to one and macro means related to whole. When you want to know the demand of the whole economy, full economy, it can be known as macro level demand forecasting. Now, second is industry level. What do you mean by industry? Industry simply means the different firms, the firms who are doing same business, when they are collecting together, grouped together, it can be termed as industry. See, diamond industry there, cotton industry is there. What do you mean by cotton industry? It is a group of the firms, group of the producers who are engaged in the business of cotton textile only. So industry means the group of same business unit. Now third one is firm. Firm means a particular business. In firm level demand forecasting, we are doing demand forecasting for a particular business unit. Now let us see in detail. In macro level demand forecasting means related to economy. Industry level means we know the total demand for a particular product in the economy, and firm level means the demand of particular business unit. Macro level demand forecasting, as it is related to economy, it can be done by government only. See, what measures we can see for doing macro level demand forecasting? That are national income, expenditure, savings, investment, industrial production, etc. Let us take the example of national income. What is national income? National income simply means the total income of the population. if the national income is increasing, then we can guess that the total population's income is increasing, and if income is increasing, then definitely demand will increase. But here we are talking about total populations, mean each and every member of the population's demand will increase, so it will lead to an inflationary situation. Now let us reverse the scenario. If the national income will reduce, means the people's income is reducing. In that situation, demand will reduce and it will lead to recessionary situation. So in inflation, demand is increasing, and in recession, demand is decreasing. Now second is industry level. On the basis of result of macro level, industry level's demand forecasting is done. I have given you the meaning of industry. Industry is the group of firms who are doing same business. So who will do the industry level demand forecasting? It will be done by trade association. See, if I talk about the diamond industry, then we need to see what is the total demand of diamond in India. We are not seeing that what is the demand of particular business diamond in India, but total demand of diamond in India, and it will be done by trade association. What are trade association? Association simply means group of people, and trade association will mean the group of entrepreneurs, group of businessmen who are doing same business. See, take the example of cotton association is there, diamond association is there. So what are these association? They are the entrepreneurs, businessmen who are engaged in the business of cotton or diamond. So industry level demand forecasting is done by this trade association. Whatever the result is there, it will be communicated by trade journals. Each and every industry is having their own magazine, their own journal. Whatever the researches are going on in the industry, whatever the trends are going in the industry, the whole thing will be communicated in the trade journal. So each member can come to know by reading that trade journal. See, generally whatever the result of macro level demand forecasting is there, in the same connection, in association with that only, the result of demand in the result of industry level demand forecasting will come. Say for example, in macro level, if inflationary situation is there, means demand is increasing, then definitely the demand of diamond industry will also increase. There will be only lesser chances that in the economy's demand is increasing, but a particular industry's demand is reducing. Now let us see the firm level demand forecasting. Firm level demand forecasting is concerned with demand of one's business. What is the demand of XYZ Limited, a particular business? That is known as firm level demand forecasting. Firm level demand forecasting can be done in association with industry level demand forecasting. Say for example, if cotton's demand is increasing, industry level demand forecasting says that cotton's demand is increasing in a market, then definitely a particular unit's demand will also increase. So firm level demand forecasting will be done by owner of the business, because it is the owner only who will be having interest to know what is the demand of particular business unit. So again I am repeating, macro level demand forecasting is related to economy, industry level is related to total industry, and firm level means related to one's business. Macro level demand forecasting is done by government, industry level demand forecasting done by trade association, and firm level demand forecasting is done by owner himself. Now let us see the third factor of demand forecasting, that is nature of demand. It is not nature of demand forecasting but nature of demand. The demand's nature can be classified into two categories. One is general and second is specific. What do you mean by general demand? General demand means overall demand in the economy. See what we have seen in the second factor, in the macro level it is concerned with the overall business condition. Here whatever the answer will come, that we can term as a general demand. If economy's demand is increasing, means each and every product's demand is increasing in general. So that is a general demand forecasting. And in firm level we came to know about a particular business's demand, so that will be known as a specific demand forecasting. If we go in detail, if I will give you the example of general and specific forecasting, then it will go like, so for example, if any firm wants to know the demand of cosmetic in a market, then it will be termed as general demand forecasting. Why? Because cosmetic is such a big word. So many products are coming under the category of cosmetic. But if you want to know the demand of cream A, then it will be known as a specific demand forecasting, because here we are focusing on a particular product, whereas in general forecasting we are focusing on a group. A group can have so many items together, so it will be termed as general forecasting, and when you look for the specific product, it will be known as specific forecasting. Why we need to be clear about nature of demand forecasting? Because for general forecasting and for specific forecasting, the method of demand forecasting will differ. Whatever the way, whatever the resources and the method you use for general forecasting cannot be the same for specific forecasting. So first of all, we need to be clear about nature. Now, the fourth factor is nature of product. What kind of product we are selling in a market, on that basis the demand forecasting will differ. Basically, product can be divided into two categories. One is consumers product and second is producers product. What can be termed as consumers product? Consumers product means those product which can be consumed by end user, means it is the final consumption. Later on it will not be sold to someone else, it will be finally consumed by consumer. And what is producers product? Producers product means that product which are related, which are used for the production process. You can also term it as intermediate product, because with the help of this product you can convert raw material into finished good. Now if we further do the classification, then both of the category can be sub-classified as durable and non-durable. Then the category will be like consumers durable goods and consumer non-durable goods. Likewise, producers durable goods and producers non-durable goods. What do you mean by durable? Durable simply means the goods which is goods product which are having a long life, and non-durable means which is having a short lifetime. So say for example, what can be consumers durable goods? All those products, all your personal product which can be having a long life. Say for example, clothes are there, shoes are there, both are having at least a life of 6 months. It can have a life of 5 years depending on the usage and the frequency you are using the product. So generally it is having a long life period. Now what can be consumer non-durable product? You can take the example of perishable products, eatables, fruits are there, milk is there, vegetable is there, which is having the life of 1 to 2 days only. So that can be termed as consumer non-durable product. Now, what are producers durable goods? Earlier also I give you the definition about producers goods, means those goods which are used for the production. What we are using for the production is only machinery, and machinery generally having a long life running from 5 years to 10 years. Sometimes it run up to 20 years also. So machinery can be termed as producers durable good. Now producers non-durable good. To run the machinery at a regular interval, we need to do the oiling of the machine for having a long life, for having easy running of machinery. So oil has to be used within a particular time period. So that will be known as producers non-durable goods. Why we need to do the classification? Because again, on the basis of nature of the product, the method of demand forecasting will differ. Suppose you want to know the demand of vegetable, then you need to do the market research. And suppose you want to know the demand of machine, then also you need to do the market research. But for both of the product, the way of doing market research will differ. The person you are going to hire will differ. The cost you are going to incur will differ. So on the basis of nature, the total structure system of demand forecasting will change. So we need to be clear about nature of product. Now let us see the fifth factor of demand forecasting, that is nature of competition. See, nature of competition, we can also term it as market structure. What kind of market structures are there? You have studied in your FY, basically four types of market structures are there. Market structures are of four types, that is perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly and monopoly. See, what is perfect competition? Perfect competition means number of players are more. I have arranged in a sequence where the number of sellers are reducing category by category. In perfect competition, there will be the large number of sellers. In monopolistic competition, there will be many sellers. In oligopoly, there will be few sellers, and in monopoly, there will be only one seller. Now let us discuss in detail. In perfect competition, the number of buyers and sellers are large, and seller is having zero freedom over the number of product to be demanded and the price of the product. He is having zero freedom related to price of the product and how much to produce. So in perfect competition, product produced by the different competitors are almost the same. You cannot have any kind of differentiation. So in this type of market structure, to go for demand forecasting will be useless. Now, if we talk about monopolistic competition, in this competition, the number of sellers are many, but each seller is selling same product but having different features. Say for example, soap. What is the end use of soap? That is for the bathing purpose only, but soaps are of different category. Milk based soap like Dove is there, then glycerin based soap like Pios is there, then medicated soap like Dettol is there, and each is having different categories of consumer. So in monopolistic competition, though the sellers are more, but they are having the differential product. Their product is unique as compared to rivals product. So if you want to know the demand of your product, then definitely you need to go for demand forecasting. Then in oligopoly, it is that market structure where number of sellers are few. We can say that in with the few sellers, they are having monopoly in their own market segment. Take an example of bike market. Let us take an example of two category only. One is Discover and second is Royal Enfield. See, the person who are using Discover will never go to purchase Royal Enfield. The person who are using Royal Enfield, they will never purchase Discover. I have given you the bike of totally two different category. Discover comes to that category which is economical bike, which uses less petrol and gives high average, whereas Royal Enfield is something like a sporty bike. It gives you a status. So both consumer are different. In that case also, if you want to know the demand of your product, you need to go for demand forecasting, because the demand of Royal Enfield will be totally different and the demand of Discover will also be different. Now let us talk about monopoly. Monopoly is that market structure where number of seller is only one. The one seller is having the total freedom over the level of production and the price of the product, means how much to produce and at what price to sell. These two decisions will be decided only by monopolist. He is having full freedom to do it. So monopolist will behave like a king in a market. In that case, you need not to go for demand forecasting, because whatever you will produce, it will definitely gonna sell. On the basis of regular selling, you can at least predict on a lump sum basis that how much you need to produce, so that it will not be remain idle in your warehouse. So on the basis of this discussion, we can say that perfect competition and monopoly is that market structure where the need of demand forecasting is zero, or we can say less, whereas the monopolistic competition and oligopoly is that market structure where the need of demand forecasting is highest. So this is all about the factors affecting demand forecasting. Now let us move towards the methods of demand forecasting. This is the most important question of this unit. According to our syllabus, the methods are divided into three categories. First is survey method, second is statistical method, and third one is other methods. And in each category there will be minimum 3 to 4 methods. Now let us start with the survey methods first. Survey method is having 3 methods in subcategory as first one experts opinion, second is consumer survey, and third one is collective opinion method. Again, consumer survey is having 3 different methods, that is complete enumeration, second is sample survey, and third one is end use method. I would advise you to have a screenshot of the same. Now let us discuss these methods in detail. The first one is experts opinion method. See, the name itself suggests what we are doing in this method. We are taking opinion of the expert, and on that basis we are taking decision about how much to produce. See, who are experts? Experts are those who are having the knowledge of the market and who knows the movement of market and counter moves of the market. Means they can predict very accurately that in which particular direction a market is going. Whether a market is having a good period means demand will increase, or market is having bad period means demand will decrease. They can predict it precisely. What a task of organization is to take advice from the expert, and if expert says that nearly the demand will be 15,000, so firm need to produce only 15,000 units. Now let us see in detail. Experts' opinion are sought from specialists in the field outside the organization. See, experts are generally outside the organization. We term them as a market consultants who are regularly in contact with the customer, who are regularly in contact with the market. So they are generally outside the organization. And inside also experts are there, but the method will differ. It will be known as collective opinion. But in this method, you just remember experts are always outsiders of organization and firm needs to hire them. When you hire them for taking advice, you need to pay them fees. Now, the secondly a firm can do is, or the organization collects opinion from such specialists as views of experts published in the newspaper and journals of trade. See what happened, if firm is not having capacity to hire the expert, then what they can do, they can use the experts advice that are published in the journals, in the industrial magazine, or in the news channels. You know that in news channel experts are coming. Generally you have seen the experts are giving advice about the share market, whether the price of particular share will increase or decrease. They are on the basis of their knowledge giving the advice. Same kind of advice will be published in the industrial magazine, in the industrial journal. So if firm is not having capacity to hire them, they can take decision from the advice published in the journal about how much to produce. Secondly, it is written that if number of experts are large than an average, what kind of average? Simple or weighted, is found to lead to unique forecast. See what happening is, say for example firm has hired 2 experts and both of the expert is giving different advice. Say for example one expert is saying demand will be 12,000 units and second expert is saying demand will be 15,000 units. I am repeating, expert A is saying 12,000 units and expert B is saying 15,000 units. Now firm will be in the dilemma, firm will be in the confusion, what to produce, how much to produce. In this case we will take a simple decision, we will average it out. What we will do, we will add 12,000 and 15,000, so total will be 27,000. The number of experts are 2, so we will divide it by 2. So what we have done here, we have done a simple average method. 27,000 by 2, so it will be 13,500 units. So firm will produce for next month 13,500 units. This can be termed as simple average method. Sometimes what happens, that number of experts are more, that it will be 5 or 7 in number, and each expert is having different years of experience. One is newer in a market, or one is having a very long experience, for example 25 years. So his decision will be very much credit worthy, and his prediction will be accurate, precise as compared to a newer expert. So in this situation, just to take a simple average will be a misleading answer. So in this case, what we can do? We can do a weighted average method. The expert who is having highest experience, that answer will be given highest weight, and the expert who is having the least experience will be given the least weight. After multiplying the answer with the weight, again we will have a new answer. The total of that will be divided by number of experts. You know the weighted average method that you are doing since your 5th or 6th standard. So the same weighted average method we will apply in this experience expert's opinion method. Thirdly, it is written that hunch method. See, expert's opinion can be known as hunch method or guess method as well. The three different names of this method: expert's opinion, hunch method, and guess method. Now let us see the advantage of expert's opinion method. Firstly, it is written that the method is easy and speedy. Why easy? Because we need to search out the market consultants, experts from the market, and we need to take the advice, and on the basis of advice, they exactly that much we will produce. So this method is easy. And why speedy? If you compare with the exact survey, means survey, what can be termed as a survey? Survey means to do a market research. So when you will go for the market research, report will be prepared, and then you will come to a conclusion. As compared to that process, this expert's opinion will give you a speedy result. In just 1 week or 15 days, the result will be ready. The process, the time will go on for the finding out experts and for the prediction only. Now, second is estimates are nearly accurate. See, whom can be termed as expert? Experts are those who are directly in contact with the market, who are regularly in contact with the customer. So, if they are regularly in contact with the customer, they know the moves and counter moves of the market. So, they can predict precisely and accurately. Generally, their answer will be near to the real one. We have, in simple average, we have come to a conclusion to produce 13,500. In reality, the result may be 12,000 or 13,000 or 14,000. So difference will be only 500 units. With very small variation, we can predict with the help of experts' opinion. Now, third advantage is this method is suitable where past records of sales are not available. See, generally, at the time of introduction of demand forecasting, I told you that demand forecasting can be done on the basis of historical data as well. At that time, I have give you the example of March, April, and June month. Say, for example, in March, the demand is 10,000 units, and in April, the demand was 11,000 units. So, there is a sharp increase of 10%. Sharp increase of 1000 unit. So for June, manager may predict that demand will be again raise of 10% increase in a demand. But when you can predict like this, if you have a historical data, suppose firm is set up as a new, he is not having the firm is not having the historical data, then this method cannot be used. You need to be dependent on experts' opinion. Then fourth advantage is this method is economical. What do you mean by economical? Economical simply means which is less costly. Here you may think that we are hiring the expert, we need to pay the fees. Yes, definitely we are paying fees, but if you compare with the other methods of market research, the payment of experts fee will be very less as compared with the cost of market research. Again, I have told you that if you don't want to hire, if you can't afford the expert, then you can take the advice that is published in the industrial magazine. So this method is very much economical. For taking advice from the magazine, you need not to pay single penny. So you are incurring a least cost. This method is economical. The expense of seeking the opinions and views of expert are much less than the expense of actual survey. Definitely, if you will do the market research, the cost will be higher. and if you will take the advice from the opinion, cost will be less. Now let us see the disadvantage of expert's opinion method. See, firstly, it is written that estimates for a market segment cannot be possible. First of all, you need to know what is market segment. This is the topic that you will learn in your marketing management. Market segment simply means dividing the full market into different parts. Say for example, India. India is your market. In total country you are selling, but your market will be divided into states. You are doing part of the total market, that is known as market segment. There Gujarat will be there, Rajasthan will be there, Maharashtra will be there. So market is divided into smaller part. Your total market is divided into smaller part. This is known as market segmentation. In market segmentation, what happens that your total market is divided. What are experts? Experts are the one who are in contact with the market, but they can predict about the total market. If you say you want to predict about the Jaipur region only, then this is not possible for them because they may not be aware about that particular region. They are aware about the total market, so the opinion about total market situation will be available, not for the particular region, not for the particular segment. Then secondly, the reliability of forecasting is always subjective because forecasting is not based on fact. See, what do you mean by the word subjective? Subjective means anything which is differing from one person to another person. You may think that how it will differ from one person to another person. Say for example, for subjective only, I am giving you the example. What is success? For one person, success may be to earn more money. For another person, success may be to have so many relatives. For someone else, success may be to be the happiest person on the earth. So, for everyone, the definition of success, the meaning of success differs as the person differs. Likewise, in experts' opinion, as they are the human beings, they are having their own set of perception, they are having their own set of mind, they are having their own set of rules and regulations. On that basis, they will give you the answer. Generally, people are of two types. The one is optimistic and second one is pessimistic. Who are optimistic? Optimistic is the one who is always giving you a very good answer, who is always thinking about that everything good will happen in the future. And who is pessimist? Pessimist is the one who is always thinking about negativity, who is always saying that always bad will happen in the future. Say for example, if your expert is optimist, quite optimist, then if real demand will be 15,000, he will say that demand will be 20,000 units. And if the expert is pessimist one and your real demand is 15,000 unit, he will say that demand will be 10,000 unit, because he is having the mind to think always negatively. So in expert's opinion, the opinion is based on the mentality of the expert rather on the fact. This method is suffer from the subjectivity. It means the answer of one expert will be definitely differ from the answer of another expert. Now this is all about expert's opinion method. Now let us skip up to this. The other methods we will discuss in next lecture.